You are sitting in a meeting. Nothing is wrong, no one is in danger, and yet, somewhere deep inside your chest, your heart is hammering. Your palms are damp. Your throat feels tight. You cannot explain it. You just know something feels off, and your body is absolutely certain that you might die. You are not broken. You are ancient. The truth is your brain has not caught up with the world you live in. It is running software that was written hundreds of thousands of years ago on a savanna that no longer exists for threats that no longer hunt you. And it has absolutely no idea that the thing making your pulse spike is an email notification, not a lion. This is the story of the most sophisticated survival machine ever built, completely failing to understand the modern world it now inhabits. To understand what is happening inside you right now, you need to go back, way back, not to ancient Rome, not to the pyramids. Further, imagine your ancestor standing in tall grass, maybe 90,000 years ago. She has no walls, no roof, no lock on the door. The things that want to eat her are real, and they are fast, and they are everywhere. Every single human alive today is descended from the ones who survived that. And here is the key thing that neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent decades mapping at New York University. Survival did not reward accuracy. It rewarded speed. The brain that stopped to verify whether that rustle in the grass was a leopard or just the wind was the brain that did not pass on its genes. The brain that immediately flooded the body with adrenaline, that snapped muscles to attention and narrowed every sense to one sharp point. That brain ran. That brain lived. That brain is you. Ledoux called the structure responsible for this the amygdala. Two small, almond-shaped clusters buried deep in your temporal lobe. And the amygdala does not think. It reacts. It receives sensory signals faster than your conscious mind can even register them. Before you have decided whether you are scared, you are already scared. The decision was made without you. This is called the low road. Ledoux described it as a crude, fast pathway that bypasses rational thinking entirely. The signal goes, eyes or ears detect something threatening, amygdala fires, body responds. That whole sequence takes about 12 milliseconds. Your conscious awareness of what happened, that arrives somewhere between a quarter and half a second later. You are always, in a very real sense, reacting before you know why. Now here is where it gets strange. The amygdala does not care about false alarms. It is not embarrassed by them. It does not update based on evidence. It simply runs the same calculation over and over with the same blunt question. Could this kill me? And because it was shaped in a world where that question had genuine stakes, it defaults to yes, every time. Better safe than eaten. Researchers call this negativity bias, and it runs far deeper than just fear. It shapes what you remember. It shapes what you pay attention to. It shapes the stories you tell about your own life. Roy Baumeister at Florida State University published a paper in 2001 with a title that says everything bad is stronger than good. His research showed that negative events, negative emotions, negative feedback all register with significantly more psychological weight than their positive counterparts. You can receive 9 compliments and 1 piece of criticism in the same day and think about the criticism all night. That is not weakness. That is ancient calibration. Your ancestors who underweighted bad news did not survive long enough to pass that trait down. Think about what that means for your daily life. Every argument that could mean conflict, every glance from a stranger that might mean judgment, every silence in a conversation that could mean rejection, your brain is tagging those as threats. Not metaphorical threats, actual survival threats. Because for most of human history, being rejected by your tribe, being cast out, being seen as weak or wrong or other, that was not a social problem. That was a death sentence. You could not survive alone. Belonging was survival. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at Oxford University discovered that humans consistently maintain a maximum social group size of around 150 people, a number now known as Dunbar's number. The cognitive machinery required to track that many relationships, to maintain trust, to remember who you owed and who owed you, that was not a luxury. It was infrastructure. Violate it, and you died. So your brain became exquisitely attuned to social threat. A disapproving look activates the same neural regions as physical pain. A sense of exclusion fires up the same alarm that hunger does. The threat detection system does not distinguish between a saber-toothed cat and a coworker who did not invite you to lunch. It is all danger. It is all the same ancient fire. Now bring this into the 21st century. You wake up and you check your phone. Immediately, the amygdala is evaluating. Notifications? News? A message with no punctuation? Each one is a social signal to be decoded, a potential threat to be assessed. You scroll through images of other people's lives, and your brain does not register them as staged photographs. It registers them as real evidence of how your tribe is doing relative to you. Psychologist Elaine Fox at the University of Oxford has spent years studying what she calls the negativity bias in attention. Her work shows that people with even slightly elevated anxiety show a measurable preference for looking toward threatening stimuli. Eye-tracking studies confirm it. Put a grid of neutral faces and one angry face in front of someone, and the eyes snap to the angry face within milliseconds every time. The brain is not curious about the happy faces. It is not monitoring them for danger. But the angry face? That one needs to be watched. Your phone has an angry face on it approximately every 12 seconds. You were not built for this. No one was. The ancient stress response was designed for short, sharp crises. A predator appears. Your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. You run or you fight. The threat resolves. Cortisol drops. Your body recovers. That entire sequence, start to finish, might take 4 minutes. And then you go back to gathering roots and telling stories by a fire. What happens when the threat never resolves? When the cortisol just keeps trickling? Because there is always another email, another deadline, another piece of bad news, another notification. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky at Stanford University has spent a career answering that question, and his findings are genuinely alarming. Chronic low-level stress, he found, does things to the human body that acute stress does not. It suppresses the immune system. It shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. It disrupts sleep, digestion, reproductive function, and emotional regulation. It makes you simultaneously exhausted and unable to rest because your body is still running that old emergency protocol, still waiting for the predator to either catch you or give up. But there is no predator. There is just a world that moves too fast, gives too much information, and never quite lets the alarm turn off. Here is the counterintuitive part. The very thing that is making modern life so exhausting, the constant vigilance, the hair-trigger reactivity, the inability to just relax, is the same thing that kept your entire lineage alive for hundreds of thousands of years. You are not anxious because something went wrong. You are anxious because something went spectacularly right. Your ancestors survived, all of them, every single one. And they passed this hyper-tuned threat detection system down to you like a gift you never asked for. You are not broken. You are extremely well adapted to a world that no longer exists. Which raises the real question, the one that actually matters now. If the hardware cannot be changed, what can you do with the software? The answer, researchers increasingly find, is not to fight the amygdala. You cannot outthink a 12-millisecond response, but you can train the system that comes after it. Prefrontal cortex activation, the part of your brain that evolved most recently, that does reason, that does evaluate context, that can say this is an email, not a leopard. That system can be strengthened. It is not automatic. It requires practice, breath work, intentional attention, social connection, time in nature. All of these have measurable effects on how quickly and completely the stress response resolves. Not eliminating it, just not letting it run forever. You are not trying to become something your ancestors were not. You are trying to give your ancient brain enough information to update its threat model, to show it that the silence after a message does not mean exile, that the disapproving face does not mean death, that the discomfort you feel in a difficult conversation is not the same as standing in tall grass, listening for something that might eat you. The brain that kept your entire lineage alive for 100,000 years is still in there, still watching, still calculating. It is not going anywhere. You are still sitting in that meeting, heart still pounding, palms still damp. And now you know exactly why? It just thought it saw something move in the grass.